check in with the opposition through Opposition Senator Dr. Amery Browne to see their perspective and give their rationale for opposition to many of the tenets of the state of emergency. So we'll take a short break and come back with more. This is First Up on C. 6:16, welcome back to First Up this Thursday morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning as we continue to make the news and break the news. On the line, we have via Skype, we have Opposition Senator Dr. Amery Browne. Dr. Browne, good morning. Thank you for joining us in First Up this morning.
Good morning, Paul and Jessamine.
Good morning, Dr. Browne.
We appreciate you being with us this morning. First of all, the opposition has been making several proclamations through Dr. Keith Rowley, the leader of the opposition, about their thoughts on why this state of emergency may not be necessary at this time, given the fact that the anti-gang legislation could have dealt with many of the issues that we are seeing going through with the state of emergency. Can you comment on that, please?
Well, I certainly agree with Dr. Rowley. That is one of the very important points. Sometimes it's not what you do, but how you do it. And the government's approach and implementation of this state of emergency has been extremely poor. It began with the way in which they communicated it to the population, the way in which they've demonstrated their intentions, and certainly the way that they have been conducting their capture operations and then reporting results in really a very deceitful manner. Right from the get-go, the Prime Minister came on air and declared a limited state of emergency in advance of the President's signature. There have been denials since then, but I went on to the government's website, which has the Prime Minister's address, and it refers to the phrase limited state of emergency 9 times. 9 times. Every time she used the phrase state of emergency, there was the word limited coming before it. Anyone is free to go onto the government's website and they can see that themselves. Even worse, in reporting the President's declaration, now this is very unfortunate because I see it as an abuse of the President. The proclamation and emergency powers regulations giving effect to the limited state of emergency signed by the President, George Maxwell Richards. This is on the government's website, really holding up the President's declaration in a very false manner because the President did not sign any limited state of emergency. So they unfortunately are lying on the President. That was a bad start, and they started in deception.
Dr. Browne, speaking about the President and what some may consider these missteps or miscommunications aside, would it be accurate then to say that in light of what the President has now outlined as his reasons for signing the proclamation, would you agree with the declaration of the state of emergency in principle?
No, I would not. I really would not. The government has held this measure up as a last-ditch anti-crime measure. But when you look at every step that they've taken thus far, and you'd recognize that there are steps to make Trinidad and Tobago less secure. And I think that's what some people are missing, but more and more people are seeing. From making the borders more porous, the cancellation of the OPVs, the dismantling of SORT, which was in part designed to deal with some of the corrupt elements in the police service and give us some level of redundancy and another level of security, the issues with the SIA, the removal of police posts. Now somebody would have to explain that. In these same areas in which we are now seeing some very brutal and drastic action, police posts were removed by this current administration. And now these same people who were made less secure by those actions are facing state of emergency conditions, have had we all have had our constitutional rights degraded and are facing very drastic action. So the government's approach to the crime situation has not made any sense. And unfortunately, with this imposition of a state of emergency, some other questions have to be asked as to motive.